In this session, we are going to talk about what constitutes a theoretical contribution. Now, what to expect? Some of us might have come across this term in a rejection letter from the journal, that our paper was rejected because of lack of theoretical contributions. But they fail to explain what was the lack, because we think that yes, we made a significant amount of theoretical contribution. So now we need to understand what is theoretical contribution so that we actually do not get these kinds of emails. So what is a theory and its elements? We are going to talk about what is theoretical contribution, what doesn't count as theoretical contribution, common theoretical contributions, and finally how to write theoretical contributions or theoretical implications. Now the paper was rejected due to lack of theoretical contributions. One of the greatest weaknesses in academic research, which could be possibly and easily improved, is making greater theoretical contributions in empirical studies. This session will focus on improving the quality of empirical studies that we conduct. The emphasis is on improving the quality of theoretical contributions of empirical research, setting up a study in such a way that it makes a theoretical contribution to the extant literature this is the cornerstone of empirical research. Whenever you are doing an empirical research, it is expected that you are making a strong theoretical contribution. Obviously, this is not to diminish the importance of good procedures, measurement, and analysis. However, if the theoretical contribution of a study has not been well established a priori, then the quality of subsequent steps are irrelevant. So this makes theoretical contribution the key aspect of a good research. So what is a theory? Theories have the potential to explain a phenomenon, something that we have observed, something that we find out through our research. So this puts theoretical work squarely ahead of mere descriptive or survey work, which just states phenomena as they are. So what is descriptive work? For instance, servant leadership or leadership will influence job satisfaction. This is description of what we got or our results. But the theory will help us explain why this phenomenon exists in business and management research, or why this happened. So theory is necessary and useful in most business and management research. Examiners expect to see propositions and hypotheses supported by theory or theoretical concepts or perspectives, and for empirical findings to be explained by theory or theoretical concepts or perspectives. So our reviewers are expecting us to use theories or theoretical concepts or perspectives to support our hypothesis, not just support our hypothesis, but in the discussion section as well. Now, most business and management research aims to explain a particular behavior, such as a choice or an outcome that is associated with individuals. For example, how leaders could influence the employees or the consumers. So this particular relationship can be explained or should be explained through a theory. Or the influence on groups, or how the groups may be related to individuals or systems. Theories are used to explain these behaviors. For example, theories may be used to explain why some companies are successful while others are not, or why individual A decides to buy product X while individual B decides to buy product Y. Theories can be used to provide both predictions and explanations. Predictions before the hypothesis is proposed, an explanation as to why a certain relationship might exist. Theories do this by specifying how different concepts or phenomena relate to one another and why these concepts or phenomena relate to each other in the way that they do. This why is particularly important. This is one of the key elements of a theory. Explain why these concepts or phenomena relate with each other. The explanation of relationships. Now, what are the elements of a theory? Wheaton 1989 argues that theory contains 4 essential elements. 1. What? And this what actually includes the factors in the theory. This includes the constructs in the theory, the variables in the theory. Second is how. How the factors are related. This actually relates to the arrows that connect the boxes. Servant leadership influencing job satisfaction. So the arrow flows from servant leadership to job satisfaction. Why? This is the most important factor. Why the factors are related? The explanation. And this is the key and particularly important in theoretical contribution. So if you want to publish, you need to focus on this why. Rather than just explaining, okay, this is a factor or how the factors are related, and failure to significantly identify the why in your research, obviously this diminishes the quality of your research. And finally, who, where, and when, which represents the boundary conditions, moderators. This helps explain what could possibly change the existing prescribed relationships in the model. Who here refers to the level of analysis, individual, departmental, or organizational level. Where refers to the context or the setting, and when refers to the timing of research. And finally, a model is a representation of a theory, which is generally, in our case, is shown in graphical or mathematical formation. So the contribution of your research. The purpose of academic research is to add to our knowledge or understanding of a given topic of interest in the academic community. So it's about addition to what we do not know. In general sense, research is concerned about understanding how the world works. Researchers from different fields and subfields focus on understanding how small part of the world works. For instance, marketing researchers add to our knowledge on marketing related phenomena. Non-profit marketing researchers add to our knowledge on non-profit marketing related phenomena. Actual intention is knowledge discovery. Scholarly research aims to discover new knowledge by identifying a deficiency or gap in our knowledge archived in the scholarly literature. You are emphasizing both the need for knowledge discovery and the contribution you intend to make in your article. And what we need to do is, or what we intend to do rather is, we need to discover new knowledge. If we are not discovering new knowledge, we are not making any contribution whatsoever. So what we do is we look for gaps and limitations in existing research. And through those gaps and limitations, we try to add to what we already know. We try to add to our knowledge. If this issue is not addressed effectively, your article will be weak regardless of the methodological quality of the study you are reporting. As mentioned earlier, if you are not discovering new knowledge, obviously you will get that message that your study is not making enough contribution. Even though you would have made any methodological contribution, or you would have made some kind of analysis that has not been done before, but failure to add to this particular knowledge will obviously lead to a rejection. Now, researchers often spend too little time developing the theoretical contribution of their study, which is the most important thing, but they spend the most little time, or the very little time, in developing their theoretical contribution. While placing strong emphasis on reporting significant findings and model fit indices, this is the current problem that we face as researchers. Too much focus on formatting, structuring, writing the methodology, and writing different maybe analysis, and making sure that the fit indices are right, but we do not make sure that the theoretical contribution is right. So focusing more on knowledge discovery, it is important to note that a new context is not a contribution. One error researchers sometimes make is to assume that since a study has not been conducted in a different context, this represents a literature gap. Collecting data from a country in which a prior research has not collected data is not a contribution to the literature, it's a replication. For instance, if there has been a model on, say, corporate social responsibility and employee performance, and the study was done in America, if we do the same study in London, that is replication, or England, that is replication. That is not an original contribution to the body of knowledge. So collecting data from an industry or type of organization in which a prior research has not collected data is not a contribution to the literature. This common error is the result of the researchers failing to have the perspective of a social scientist. So you need to understand this, that a social scientist adds to the body of knowledge. He or she tries to discover new knowledge. he or she tries to find out something that has been not has been discovered before. So as discovered previously, social scientists think in terms of interconstruct correlations or relationship. A gap in our knowledge or literature gap is the result of an interconstruct relationship that has not been previously examined. A theoretical contribution is made when we learn about new relationships. And then obviously when we are trying to figure out these new relationships, we try to do this in light of a theory. And we find out that, okay, these variables, these relationships have not been studied in light of this theory, and how this theory will help explain these relationships. And why do these relationship exist? So this is particularly important. This is the contribution. This is knowledge discovery. Now here are a few examples. This green actually shows new relationships or contribution or knowledge discovery. You are examining a new antecedent, you are examining a new moderator, you are examining a new mediator, or you are examining new outcomes. But this is obviously not enough. Just adding a variable is not enough for theoretical contributions. There should be an aspect of why. You have to explain why adding this particular element or this particular variable is important in explaining these relationships. You do not have to be descriptive about your research. You have to be critical. You have to explain why. You have to explain the reasons. You have to provide explanation of why adding this particular variable would add to the body of knowledge, not just adding the variable. This is not enough. Now, theoretical contributions, what and how. Although in principle it is possible to make an important theoretical contribution by simply adding or subtracting factor what from an existing model, this process seldom satisfied reviewers. Yes, to a certain extent, if you add new variables to an existing relationship, obviously this counts as theoretical contribution, but you are not going to get published in high quality journals if you are just focused on what and how. You have to identify the why adding this particular variable is important, how this further explains the relationship, how does this affect the context, how does this affect the setting, why is it important for the setting, why is this variable important to be studied in this particular relationship. One way to demonstrate the value of a proposed change in a list of factors is to identify how this change affects the accepted relationship between the variables, that is, how. Just as a list of variables does not constitute a theory, so this addition of new variable to an existing list should not be mistaken as a theoretical contribution. Not just adding a variable or creating a list of variable is your theoretical contribution. This is not a theoretical contribution. So what variables affect organizational performance? This is not a theoretical contribution. Why these particular variable in a particular setting could affect organizational performance? This is a theoretical contribution. Relationship, not lists, are the domain of the theory. Therefore, theoretical insights come from demonstrating how the addition of a new variable significantly alters our understanding of the phenomena by reorganizing our causal maps. So not just what, we have to identify why, how. How would this change affect this particular theory? So what and how will actually only describe the phenomena. And you need more than mere description. You need why. So why? This is probably the most fruitful but also the most difficult avenue of theory development. This includes identification of mediators and moderators that could help explain not only the mechanism of impact but also the boundary conditions. Why this relationship changed? Why a particular variable impacts another variable? And why explains and provides reasoning to us in a particular research paper. So you cannot make a discovery of new knowledge unless you or until you answer this particular why. So why, you have to explain why this particular variable is influencing this variable. And this can be done in terms of using mediators and moderators in this study. So you could provide your reason as to why CSR will influence loyalty, because CSR will build onto corporate reputation. It will build onto positive image. It will help satisfy the customers. It will, and then once these things are there, this will actually lead to improved loyalty within a particular organization for a certain set of consumers. So this is how you use this particular why in your theoretical contributions. Utilizing a theory to explain the relationship between variables where there has been no empirical research. For instance, using knowledge-based view to explain how entrepreneurial leadership affects knowledge management processes. For example, you need this theory to explain why a particular phenomena exists. In this case, we are saying that entrepreneurial leadership affects knowledge management processes, but there hasn't been any previous research. So the theory will explain or will help you explain why entrepreneurial leadership will affect knowledge management processes. And in doing so, we will add to knowledge-based view by further elaborating on how entrepreneurial leadership affects knowledge management processes. And then there are who, when, and where. Generally, it is insufficient to point out limitations in current conceptions of a theory's range of applications. For instance, lack of application of a particular factor in context setting is not enough. Theorists need to understand why this anomaly exists so that they can revise that how and what in the model to accommodate this new information. Now, for instance, in a study, I read that, leadership can affect life satisfaction, or a particular servant leadership style can influence life satisfaction. This was true according to leader-member exchange theory, or maybe any other theory. But when I read the results of that particular paper, the results signified that servant leadership actually does not affect life satisfaction. Now, this is not enough that you just explain, okay, servant leadership does not affect life satisfaction. In order to make theoretical contribution, you need to identify why is this so that future researchers can maybe modify that particular theory and add to that theory to further elaborate or accommodate this new information. Now, here are a few examples of theoretical contribution. In this case, theory has been used to explain a different situation or context. Whereas self-determination theory traditionally pays attention to various types and work-related sources of human motivation for displaying particular workplace behaviors. In this article, work, non-work integration behavior, no attention is paid to the needs and obligations individuals may have outside the work domain. Now what they are doing is, they are identifying the traditional application of self-determination theory and now how they are changing the context to apply the self-determination theory. Another example. Now here the concepts are related in light of a particular theory. The authors make a theoretical contribution by explaining the process by which ethical leaders influence employees to engage in corporate citizenship behaviors, addressing calls to understand how social learning theory can be used to understand how people learn to become socially responsible. Now they are using a theory to explain how or why certain relationship exist. So they are adding to social learning theory. A few more examples. Our study makes an important theoretical contribution in that the results help in articulating the underlying processes by which transformational leadership style and organizational commitment influence hotel success. The aspect of why a particular theory or why certain relationship exists. We make a theoretical contribution by explaining the process by which ethical leaders influence employees to engage in citizenship behaviors which benefit those outside the organization. In doing so, we address the calls by Gaunt and others 2017 for more work to draw on social learning theory to better understand now how or why this particular theory is beneficial in explaining a particular relationship. So this is the contribution of this particular research. Now another example, as far as the theoretical contributions of this paper are concerned, the study contributes to our understanding of some related constructs that have not been explored in depth in previous literature relating to CSR and CL in hotel industry, hence helping in developing a better understanding of the mechanism of impact of CSR on CL through service quality, satisfaction, image, and corporate reputation, is the key theoretical contribution of our research. In this regard, the findings of the present paper reinforce the necessity to develop and test global and integrative conceptual models that acknowledge that the relationship between CSR and CL is not direct and straightforward. So this explains why the relationship between CSR and loyalty is not direct and straightforward, but is actually mediated by other variables. Another example, the study contributes by exploring the factors that will help explain the mechanism to build a loyal customer base through CSR. Additionally, the present study integrates three theoretical approaches. These are the three approaches: social identity, stakeholder, and signaling theory. In doing so, it expands previous studies that have based on social identity perspective almost exclusively to understand CSR loyalty link. Now, previous studies have only used social identity perspective, but this study uses stakeholder and signaling theory to understand the relationship between CSR and loyalty. And then obviously there is another theoretical contribution. Finally, a sample from multiple countries is useful to demonstrate what the outcomes of customer perceptions of CSR in different cultural settings are. This would help researchers and practitioners to focus their CSR efforts and investments better. The study will add to cross-cultural studies in the context of CSR, and it will help in developing a clear understanding, the why aspect of CSR and its benefits in a cross-cultural setting or cross-country setting. This is particularly important since existing literature is almost silent. Now, limitations of existing research. How new knowledge is discovered in this particular study. So this is how you can write your own contributions in your own research. And finally, these are the references that have been used for preparation of this particular session. I hope this lecture would have helped you understand what is theoretical contribution, what constitutes theoretical contribution, and how to write about theoretical contributions. Thank you very much.